Welcome to the Femsplainers. I'm Christina Hoff-Summers.
And I'm Danielle Crittenden. And this is the last episode of the 4th season. And we're going to break now for summer.
And we'll be back.
With
great new topics and guests in the fall.
Great new guests. I have to say, I feel like, we went through July 4th, obviously, and, in fireworks shows that as the big build up to the end, the final big explosions. I thought these past 3 weeks, we kind of did epically well. We had
Sam Harris.
We had Sam
Andrew
Harris.
Sullivan. Erica Jong.
Molly Jong.
Jong and Little Jong.
Bet Jong Fast. No, I thought that was just so much fun. So many interesting discussions. We'll line up a great season for the fall. And it's also, the sad part we have to mark is that Zoe, our beloved Zoe, is leaving us.
I'm dying. No,
You're leaving us. And Zoe, explain what you felt was going to be better for you than staying with us.
Well, I have been long in the market to attend law school for the past couple of years, and it is finally happening.
Why do you want to attend law school? Who wants to be a lawyer?
Me.
Why?
Because I like to argue with people, as do the two of you. I think the two of you would make some pretty fierce litigators as well.
No, we don't like to argue. We
like to get along with everyone.
We like to get along with everybody.
Well, maybe when we make some headway into feminism law, is that a thing?
Feminism law.
There's
women's. I mean, it's gender law, kind of. I don't know.
Discrimination.
Well, yeah.
What kind of law do you want to do? I just know you follow a lot of true crime.
I do. That is my chosen subject matter for podcasts.
You want to defend criminals?
I don't know if I'm going to limit myself to criminal just yet. It is my favorite, but I am prioritizing more being a litigator and doing trial advocacy work, less so than being behind a table.
Well, I say she's going to defend criminals. They're not criminals until they're convicted.
This is true. I do love criminal law, though, but civil litigation, there's also lots of interesting intellectual property work that I am interested in.
Well, fine, Zoe, be that way. Just fine. Just leave the Femsplainers.
Well,
leave us all alone. Yeah, you could call in.
I'm only going to Chicago. It's not the end of the world.
Well, except in February.
I'm from upstate New York. It's okay.
But in your place, we've also, and last week when you were away, Zoe, we welcomed Ella Ryder as the new Zoe, the new production, what do we call you? Production queen? Production
Czarina?
That.
Czarina.
Oh, that's good.
She's taking over the
deputy factual feminist too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And that's Christina's YouTube series, which is great.
You can be the deputy Femsplainer.
Deputy Femsplainer Junior. Anyway, so it's exciting times of change. And for this podcast, we're just going to yak.
Well, we have subjects.
Several subjects. I mean,
several things.
We're not going to talk about the weather. We could, but gosh, we came through a monsoon today.
I had to go through a monsoon. I was about to leave, and Izzy wouldn't go out the door.
She was wise.
Sheets and thunder, and then something exploded down the street. I still don't know what it was.
Was it just thunder?
Probably lightning.
It was lightning, but it was an explosive sound. I don't know.
Do you realize we just did, in fact, start talking about the weather?
Oh, no.
And what about them bunions? Do your bunions act up?
No, I want to talk about the wage gap in soccer. I was struck by a tweet quoting Megan Rapinoe. How do you say it? Rapinoe?
I think it's a Rapinoe.
I say Rapinoe, but I heard someone introduce her as Rapinoe, so...
It's not Rapini, that we know that's a
No.
vegetable.
Let's just say Megan. And she was asked how fans can support the fight for equal pay. And she said, come to the games, buy jerseys, become season ticket holders, tell all your friends about it. Now, that's the right answer. It's not because there's this inequity in the sports in the sense that they are paid less than the men for the same job. They're actually somewhat different jobs. They have different. Their pay is organized.
Ball?
Well, you could say, Little League, you could say, at all levels, they play the same game. Little League and Major League, they're not paid the same.
Oh, did you just call the women's soccer?
No,
team
you
Little
didn't
League?
let me finish. You didn't let me finish. There is.
Went there.
I did. I didn't go there. No, they have a different pay structure. No, what I was trying to say is that it's a fallacy to think that just because someone does the same thing, they necessarily get the same pay.
Yeah, but as they pointed out, I mean, let's just be fair. You know, the men's team has been kind of a bunch of losers, and the women's team is killing it. And they're bringing in more, as I understand it, they're bringing in more money, more fans, and yet they're still getting paid less. So is that unreasonable that they would want, to get a bigger share of the earnings?
It's not unreasonable, and I hope they do. Actually, I think that sport has a pretty good chance of generating an audience and creating excitement. But here's where you go wrong. The men's team, men's soccer, it's not very much in the United States, and our team is fairly unimpressive. However, it's connected to this right, leviathan, which is men's soccer around the world. And when they play in the World Cup, which they often don't even make, but they did make it 4 years ago, they then can get a slice of millions and millions of dollars, many millions more. And there's no comparison. For example, take the World Cup, the men's World Cup in 2018. It generated $6 billion. $6 billion. Now, the Women's World Cup this year, it may be 130 million, 131 million. That is a huge difference because the men's teams are connected with men's, soccer. It's a different entire world. And then when it comes to their pay, they negotiated a different structure. So the men's teams, they get paid if they play. The women negotiated that they get a base salary and then they get fringe benefits. The men, none of that. We pay, we play, we get paid, and they get paid more according to who they play. If they play a more challenging team and they win, they get even more. So they structured it to sort of just reward success. And the women's is structured to be more protective, and it's a little less risky. So when you look at their pay structure.
Wow, so you're also just looking at gender stereotypes within the fields they've negotiated.
Yeah, but having said that, is it possible that they will build an empire like men's soccer is in South America, in Central America, in Europe, Africa? It's possible. However, as Megan Rapinoe said, to do that, like all of us, we have to go to games and buy jerseys. Yeah. And I don't see that happening. Every time right after a World Cup, there's a lot of excitement. We see them on TV. But then people aren't buying season tickets. People aren't. Right. I mean, would you? Can you? I almost can't imagine going to a game. If you said to me, "I have tickets, and we can go to a stadium in Rockport or so, I don't know where."
to Hellingen International Stadium.
Some stadium to watch women's soccer.
You couldn't pay me to go watch a men's soccer game. Just soccer.
But they drink so much.
But they drink beer. But I think we're also all the celebrities who have been coming out. This has become quite the celebrity protest too. You make a good point. You're looking at it through an American lens, and that you're not looking at it through because Americans aren't.
We don't. You can't get Americans
football.
Interested,
right?
And they have low scores. There are no scores. One or two. That's boring. And to me, it just I even at the highest level. In the Olympics, it's the World Cup. It's a little hard to watch.
Well, I'm going to actually say something so unpopular about the women's soccer team. I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Well, I compared it to Little League, which I didn't. But I've been known to be accused.
I twisted your words. I have to say, I have found the women's team sport manners very off-putting. And I know we're not supposed to say that, and it's supposed to be all empowering and you go girls, but two things I didn't like. First of all, I didn't like the politicization that it became.
That was tiresome.
Yeah, and I just look. I don't blame them.
We could even agree with them, but please, can people just have one activity where we're not polarized?
I didn't like the "I won't go to the White House." I would be totally with her on that. If they won, which they did, but she said this, before they did.
Before.
Then you can make your stand and not go. That's totally fair, and many male teams have done that. But there was just something about it that was, can we please, as you say, can we please not have politics in this? And then the other thing was when they held a trophy. I'm just reading this. It was one of the players held a trophy and a bottle of champagne and yelled, "I deserve this."
Oh, it wasn't one of the players. It was Megan Rapinoe.
Mm-hmm. Was it Megan Rapinoe who did that?
But I am going to defend her here.
Okay, but I just...
No, she was drunk, and maybe. And it was just a conversation with somebody.
Okay,
moment.
so it wasn't... I'm just...
So it wasn't...
reading it off. See, I came across it on the Twitter sphere.
I'm saying I agree with Christine. She was simply...
She was having fun.
It was like, I think, for like a Snapchat interview or something.
Yes.
Where they were like, how are you feeling?
And she was smiling.
Okay. I take that back.
We don't accept your retraction. We want to continue berating you.
But I don't know.
There were some... The people criticized them for their sort of victory celebration on the field after they beat Thailand. They didn't beat them.
Yes,
they humiliated them.
Yes, and then they
And again, even in I read it even in Little League, to bring that up again, they have rules that if one team is winning, 75-0, you don't keep having more and more innings. You to protect the and. I think this should apply to professional sports. They could have gone on and just crushed them. But anyway, they won by this huge amount. And then they were all, wow, we're fabulous and carrying on. And people thought it was bad form.
Yeah, I guess I maybe I'm just very old fashioned. I like.
You're Canadian.
I'm Canadian. I like sort of, like exuberant celebrations, but I don't like preening. I don't like gloating. I don't like.
Well, have you
not
watched
being a good
hockey?
Sport to your.
Because the celebrations in hockey, I think, are actually far worse.
Yeah, but they shake each other's hands always after they skate by. They do the handshake.
At the end.
Yeah, it's fair to celebrate as winners. There's just a way you can do it that is not sort of, putting down.
Yeah, well, I would argue in men's soccer it's actually worse. Like if you watch the really, really good British teams and the really good Spanish teams, they're pretty brutal in their celebration.
Well, there is an origin to the term soccer hooligan. So,
oh yeah, that's true.
So
I've followed some.
Maybe it's soccer. Maybe soccer players. You need to up your.
I think
your
it's that. Yeah.
Good sportsman.
I have followed. What was that? Oh, that's me. I have followed.
It's not her phone. She was clinking her glass.
What was your glass?
Yeah.
I thought it was some
and it's a nice sign. Oh. I can't even do it now.
Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to add that
that's acceptable noise.
I've been hearing people say that it's simply sexism. Well, if you make the argument, as I just did, that there are reasonable explanations for why the men and women are paid differently, and some people will come back and say, yes, but the fact that, men's soccer is this, this powerful and, just world phenomenon, and that women's soccer is nowhere, is the result of sexism. And it's a result of, women's sports not getting the same press, not getting the same, focus in the media and excitement. And if only they had that, then people would want to see them play. And I don't see that happening because I think that men's soccer, or let's see team sports in general, from hockey, baseball, football, basketball, I don't think there's any amount of consciousness raising or resocialization that's going to even the score because men are stronger, bigger, and faster. And most fans want to see...
Until trans athletes take over women's sports, and then maybe men will get interested.
Well, that's true.
Can we talk about sex? We're starting to sound like Barstool Sports or something.
Okay.
Jewel stools.
Jewel stools. No, not the jewel.
That's my final thing.
Our new merch.
So women want equality in sports. Then, when we're watching, what are women's TV shows? these
Bachelorette.
days? The View
My favorite
and
show.
Bachelorette.
The Housewife series.
Yeah, then there should be like sports highlights.
I agree.
And they should have scrolling tickers with scores.
Oh, that's a
The
good
Bachelorette
idea.
is I have a bracket for the Bachelorette, the way that men do for football.
Oh, but wait a minute. That's not my point. Not that you should have a bracket for that.
Oh, but I'm saying that I think that they should score it and they should have a ticker. I totally agree.
A ticker
Yeah.
for the Bachelorette. How you're doing? No,
I can tell you that's not going to work.
that's not
with my
going to.
daughters.
That's not going to.
No, I think we are, as you say, it's a demand problem. and,
It's a demand problem, and there was a demand, and that's how men's sports evolved and developed into what it is. And they're going to, if they try to do it top down, we've got the team, and now you must come and watch and do it. We'll see.
This is maybe one of, if we have any fundamental disagreement between us, it's that you watch sports and I don't.
I watch it. I watch the Red Sox. I'm a Boston fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, and a Patriots fan,
But
Celtics fan. But I don't watch all the games unless they're on. Then I'll watch.
to me, talking about sports, except in this context, of course, is like dental surgery. I mean, it's just.
You're why the women's soccer players aren't getting paid.
Okay, I'll support women's soccer. That's fine. Can we talk about love and sex?
Oh, now we're on to a ladies' topic.
Girl topics. So since we have, for this one episode, 2 Gen Zers in the studio with us, and as we know, Ella and Zoe are both the voice of their generation.
Yep.
I came across a story in the New York Times that says, the headline is, "Should we all take the slow road to love? Millennials are going on fewer dates, having less sex, and marrying later. Do they know something about love that the rest of us don't?" Well, as we've been talking about it on this podcast, that we've been we are among what this writer called the hand-wringing experts who speculate that hookup culture, anxiety, screen time, social media, and helicopter parents have left us with a generation incapable of intimacy and commitment. That is my default view of what's going on amongst your generation. And this article quotes a biological anthropologist named Helen Fisher, who said, notes that they're delaying marriage close to 30, the median age. But she says it's because they're doing it better than previous generations. They're taking more time. They're not hurling themselves recklessly into commitments. And in fact, she says we can all learn from people who don't want to waste a lot of time doing things that are going nowhere. On the other hand, in the same article, so they spend an average of 6.5 years together before marrying. But she does say the one thing that they do very, very quickly, they have sex before they actually commit to dinner.
To dating.
Or to dating. Okay, does any of this ring true for you, Ella, Zoe?
They're looking skeptical.
They're looking skeptical.
Yeah.
Does any of this make sense?
I think that's fairly common with a lot of people our age. I think it's
Sex before
I think
lunch?
it's really the wrong way of going about things, but
Agreed.
I think it's a bigger commitment to put yourself in such a vulnerable position with a complete stranger that could, especially with our whole fear of rape culture, then you're going to put yourself in the situation where you literally know nothing about this person, and then you're going to go on a date with them. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's counterintuitive also to what we're hearing about college campuses. I guess it's not where they get drunk, they have sex, and then there's the backlash.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of my friends, there's so much fear of admitting you like someone because you've already been vulnerable with them and you don't want them to dump you because it's kind of a semi-relationship without calling it a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Is that the friends with benefits?
Yeah, you
Is there a lot of that, friends with benefits?
yeah.
I mean, I've done that before, and it's something that I think my generation is such a sex positive generation that it's saying, oh, you should do all of these things. You should masturbate all the time. You should know your body extremely well. You should put garlic in your vagina. Just kidding. No, but I think that it's generally the narrative is you should know your body. And once you know your body, you should open it up in a way where when you are having sex with another person, it's not necessarily because you are attracted to that person, but because it makes you feel good. So it's very much sort of the selfish kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word, but
it's sort of
self-love.
It's a version of masturbation with another person.
Yes.
What you're sort of saying. Does that ring true?
No, I've said that to my friends before. I just think I have a lot of friends who have put themselves in situations where they really like someone and they're afraid to tell them verbally, so they try and tell them physically, and then the guy kind of just doesn't consider them a relationship prospect anymore and kind of just throws them aside, and then they're crushed and they're like, this is awful. He was such a jerk to me. And it's like, yeah, he was a jerk to you, but you also did not know him. You knew him for a week.
Right.
So.
And I think it also has to do with the fact that so many more people of our generation are in college and are taking on very stressful postgraduate degrees and are doing things where they're essentially saying, I'm prioritizing my career. I am being selfish for the next 6 years to get educated, to get a good job, and then I'll deal with the relationship stuff. So I can have sex with whoever I want because it's not really going to end up as a relationship, and I can worry about that later when I have a secure job, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, I want to suggest something, which is that I don't think human nature changes that much. And my guess is that there are still people who are romantic and fall madly in love, and that secretly everyone wants that. And all of this chatter is just kind of making it okay until you find your true love.
That's me. That's how I was.
You have true love.
Yeah.
She says at the ripe old age of 24 now. Oh no, 23.
No, I mean, when I went to Sarah Lawrence, I was very much of the opinion that friends with benefits was the way to go because it was uncomplicated, when in reality it was very complicated. And then I met my current boyfriend, and both of us, I think we fell in love fairly quickly, and we've been together almost 3 years and are now going to law school together. So I think we're pretty abnormal for other people that I know in our generation in terms of being in a long-term relationship in the way that people were 20 years ago, when we were kids.
Yeah, it's sad to me. I mean, Ellie, you were here when we had Erica Jong. I don't know if you ever read her books or had sort of heard of her books before she came in.
I hadn't, but I want to now.
But that was, as we were talking about she talked about, the historic women's desire wasn't acknowledged and sort of that discovery in the 70s and women having sort of feeling free to have sort of passionate sex, but always connected to somebody. They were she wasn't, even though she created that phrase, the zipless fuck. Can we say that?
Can we say that?
Of course we can say that. We say it all the time. Hey, it's our podcast. No, we swear all the time. No, she created, but that was sort of, if I remember it, Christina, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that was sort of that so crazy about each other. You just couldn't wait. But it wasn't about anonymous sex or sex with people the way you would, do your laundry or something, or have a coffee.
Just making it sort of recreational rather than
and that's what
passionate.
It's
attraction.
Disconnected from passion. It seems disconnected.
But I'm not going to accuse
desire.
an entire generation of that because I think they may be getting some very bad advice.
Yeah, and
there may be a lot, and there's also this bitter politics that sort of permeates everything. But there's just the human need for intimacy and finding a beloved and sharing your life with someone is just what I've met very few people, maybe no one, who didn't want that.
Right, male and female.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most
Gay and
people
straight.
They want that. I think the people who aren't having sex are the true romantics who want to find someone they really like and aren't willing to have a one-night stand before they go on a few dates, and they kind of get locked out of this because they're just prudes. So you have to find a fellow prude before you can really have this romantic relationship. But I think it's also like a slippery slope. Maybe it happens once or twice, and then it's fine, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should, take a break from men. That's a lot of people end up doing that, and then they end up finding their boyfriend after that. And then other people are like, buy into the politics of the third wave feminist movement, and then think, well, it's the man's fault for making me feel this way. It's not that, like, if men and women are completely the same, and if they think of sex completely the same, then why do I feel bad and he feels fine?
Yeah. And then they're angry.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, I see this with my daughters, that girls who behave certain ways still get stigmatized, if that's the right word.
Are you defending slut shaming?
Yeah, kind of. No, I'm not. Well, no, it's there. That's the other thing that we're not allowed to say, that both men and women judge those women who are usually, I feel, have very low self-esteem, take on
It depends.
The ones who are really what they used to call the town bicycle.
Oh, my God.
There is still, not great opinions of women who do that. And by the way, it's the same of men who are what we used to call players. I mean, that men who are known to just
I think
women.
that men who are, that has lost its charisma.
I don't know. I've seen it doesn't seem to have done so in high school, maybe in college. But
Well, what about that? Are there still players that? Oh yeah. And they girls are.
Human nature doesn't.
I know. I
really
take it back.
change.
I take it back.
Well, I think it's so, like, when I was at Sarah Lawrence, which is such a woke campus about sexuality,
Right.
and is very much, go have an orgy, go have all these people over and do your thing. Our orientation included an instruction on how to use dental dams, like just a very, very in-depth sexual education.
Zoe, this is something I don't want you to explain to me. I've heard about it, but
You don't need to use them, so it's okay.
Okay.
But basically, because the campus...
Dental dams? I showed you what dental dams are. They're like, aren't they like?
It's like a giant condom
Teeth guards?
that you use on a vagina. So you
Oh,
put
God.
it around.
Are
Yeah.
you guys doing this to me again?
You inquired? Okay.
I said don't.
Okay. Well, so this was a campus.
God. We went there again. Sorry, Sam Harris fans. Those of you who joined.
It's fine.
Go on.
Well, it was a campus that was 70% women and 30% men, and it was only 1,000 people. So you do the math.
A lot of lugs.
Well, a lot of
Lesbians. Lesbians until graduation.
Yes.
Like a men's prison, like what happens in prison. Oh, yeah, very lucky guys.
Well, that was so for the 10 straight guys that went to Sarah Lawrence. It was amazing. I mean,
a harem. They had a
yes.
Really...
But the thing was like, as a heterosexual woman at this school who was not interested in sleeping with women, I essentially...
What's wrong with you, Zoe?
I know.
And you can't sleep with the teachers anymore.
Yeah, says the one who at least married the teacher.
That's true. And he was
like
a Sarah Lawrence
teachers.
professor. So
He was a
there you
Sarah
go.
Lawrence.
I took one look at the 10 straight guys that were on campus, and I said, all right, this is what I have to pick from the next year. And then I went home over the summer, and I got myself a long-distance boyfriend and focused on my studies.
Why?
But I think that, Sarah Lawrence is obviously its own bubble, but I think that that's pretty common on a lot of other campuses where you see that there are these players who get around to every, girl with a pulse, essentially, who shows up at a party, and they lose the shiny qualities that they had when you met them until you realize, who they
Right,
are.
but is it wrong? Let's just call this out. Is it wrong? I don't mean to slut shame. I would not walk up to a girl and slut shame her. But is it wrong to discourage this type of behavior? Is it wrong to say, which is, I've said to my own daughters, if you have self-esteem, and they pick it up, that nobody is going to value you if you don't value yourself, or if you treat yourself
Yeah, but I could
Like a
girl
commodity,
could
a
value
sexual
herself.
commodity.
She could value herself and be a little wild. She could.
Yeah.
And then you're
I
saying
think we're striking a nerve with Christina.
no.
You
There are
a
nice
wild
girls.
girl.
No, me.
No, I'm not.
Nice girls can be wild. They're just polite about it.
I think it's a definitional term.
And
because
somebody that
it's
looked
not-
down on me, some man that looked down on me, let's say me, for being promiscuous, I wouldn't respect him.
Okay, I think promise. I'm thinking the image I have in my head, which is not young hippie child Christina having a great time, and of course
At the
women should
Renaissance
be-
Fair.
At the Renaissance.
Went out with a
I met
reenactor.
This was a long time ago. I met a boyfriend there.
Okay, that's fair. Let's be definite.
Lee Henderson, if you're out there,
It's
he was
one
so
thing-
cute.
it's
What did he
one
dress up
thing
as?
To be Erica Jongi and
Spaced
say,
out.
I'm going to be youthful and meet people and experience a lot of things. I'm talking about girls at high school, younger girls who are not really at, in full mature command of themselves, who are always known as the girl who will go off into the bedroom with the boy, be used. The boy will then ignore her at the party afterwards.
Why? Now, just a question. Why is it being used? If
If she's willing to do it?
she has an ecstatic experience.
Well, how many women?
Well, I don't know,
who
high
have
school.
ecstatic
All right. I prefer to be.
being on the labor end of the.
What are we talking about here?
Not dental dams.
No,
That's for sure.
it sounds pretty good. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about men. Okay,
Oh, wait a minute.
boys being serviced at parties.
Oh,
Can we put it that way?
Service.
It is. They're being like servicing them, and then being. It's not even sex. It's. There's not. I mean, so far as I understand, what goes on in some high school.
well, I prefer not to talk about high school because I just don't have it just seems too young. But college, I can see girls. It just depends on the sort of girl. And there are some that might enjoy servicing, as you say, and I really hesitate now, especially after reading this article and so many others that are trying to generalize about what's going on in the intimate lives of millennials. I think what's going on is what always went on, but with a lot of bad information and some twisted theories about
and more
how horrible men are.
But it's.
But I do agree with you. If I had a daughter in high school, I would be very concerned if I became aware that she was just completely. It's just too young for that.
Right, but getting wasted and then being in these situations often. I guess, but to go back to your original point, and then we can move on, that certain human nature, there are certain norms that and I think to your point, Zoe, this whole idea that you have this sort of roadmap in your head that I'm not going to take anything seriously, for the next, or any relationship seriously for the next 5 years because I have to go through these hoops. And then whatever I do between now and then doesn't really matter or count. And in fact, it's what you were saying, Ella. There is a toll. There's an emotional toll. Sex is intimate. Mm-hmm. And to pretend it's not and to rob it of all its meaning actually robs it of the things that make it great and make it so unique between potential people.
Yeah.
If it really does just become like riding a bicycle.
I don't. I don't see how. I assume there are people for whom it's just like riding a bicycle.
Well, that's what they're saying. It's
but
just like this culture. You just have to,
I've known very few.
Before I even know this guy, it's like, what are those urban rent-a-bikes?
Oh my God!
Pick it up here, park it over there. Cars to go. I mean,
Depends
that's
on
what
the bike.
that's
It
what
is.
kind
I
of
mean,
sounds like
Tinder is a Postmates for some people,
right?
For sex instead of.
I just think that's
You know what? There's a
sad.
lot of
I
too.
think that's sad.
Well, never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. Sexting.
Oh,
Our generation didn't do that.
that's because we didn't have text. We didn't have smartphones, Christina.
Oh, I forgot.
Have you ever sexted, Christina?
No,
Oh, I can tell you.
but I'm thinking of it.
Have I told you this story? stop me if I'm sinna. So when I was, our form of sexting was, so I would have been, 21 or 2. And I have
Polaroids.
No.
That's Snapchat.
I never sent.
That's old Snapchat.
I never did that. That's old Snapchat, exactly. No, I was applying for a job on a movie in LA, like in a like production side when I was about 21. Do anything to get out of Toronto in February. Anyway, the guy, I did a phone interview over the phone, the kind with the cord that, you put to your ear that is attached to another piece, a dial. And so this was I guess, the producer of the film, and he was interviewing me about, aspects of the job. And then he said,
what do you look like? What are you wearing?
No, he said, do you, he had a term for it. Basically, do you like dirty calls? And he hadn't even seen me. So, he didn't have a picture.
Yeah, but he heard your voice.
Heard my beautiful voice. No, and I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah. Do you like, somebody call you, in the night? I like to do that. Do you like to do that? I'm
my God.
I'm thinking, this is so pre-me too. I'm thinking, well, I want this job, but that's so weird. So I said, no, that's not really my bag. But he goes, oh, well, you never know. Anyway, so hung up. 2 a.m, my phone rings.
Oh, no.
And it's this guy.
Oh, my God.
And he's like,
Hi.
What are you doing? And there were sort of sounds that were distressing.
Oh, no.
And I hung up the phone.
Yes.
I said, I don't do this, and hung up the phone.
Did you get the job?
No. Didn't want it after that.
What a weirdo.
But I just think that was common, or maybe it was some LA thing, but...
That's not common. I never had that.
Well, anyways, you wanted to know what was sexting in our time? That was it. Except that was like getting a dick pic. in the olden days.
Yeah, the
Thomas
calls.
Edison era of dick pics.
Now that you're telling that story, I think you told that on the episode with Miranda. I'm realizing.
Oh, I think I did tell it. All right. Well, for those who didn't hear it, you got to hear it again.
I didn't remember it. My memory's a sieve, and I blame Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of Twitter. Mm-hmm. We had a bunch of stories that basically fall into the category of white is the new black.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, as I've counseled you countless times, recalling Twitter feuds is like people telling you their dreams, right?
I know.
There's nothing.
My children have
boring.
forbidden me to mention Twitter. I can't mention anything. Stop, they say.
And isn't there a rule, too, that if you want to know how serious this is, just try recounting your Twitter spat to someone?
Oh, God. There's no sympathy, no interest.
I am violating my own rule because this is relevant to what we wanted to talk about with some of these other articles. So, I manage our Femsplainers Twitter account because you're too busy with your account.
Yeah, and you constantly. Yeah, I do. I know it.
Anyway, we have actually, our Twitter following and Twitter engagements are so civilized and interesting. I don't usually have that experience of coming up against trolls. There is 1 or 2 trolls, and I don't understand a troll.
One of them we seem to be that person's whole life.
I know. That's what I don't get. I don't get the troll mentality.
That.
If I hate someone, if I really hate everything they stand for, let's think of, Alex Jones. Why would I go on Alex Jones' Twitter obsessively
and just say, "Oh, what a jerk."
There he goes again, that conspiracy theory.
Right.
Don't I have a life? Why would I want that cancer, that malignant thing? Anyway, we had a couple of those. And one of this habitual troll, who, by the way, I invited her to come on the Femsplainer. I said, if you seem to know so much of what we say and think, why don't you just come on and we'll discuss it? And then she went dark for weeks, but then she reemerged. And she was saying that you were in the pay of, I think, Dinesh D'Souza. That was the most recent one.
That's interesting.
And that you support the oppression of women by men and, the usual stuff.
What? She didn't say anything about you?
No, I'm golden.
Oh, my God.
No, I don't rise to the level of in her trollish mind. She wants to destroy you, Christina. I'm not so important. But anyway, no. So somebody wrote under one of these ridiculous comments, said, "What do you expect? They're white feminists." And I thought, well, duh. I mean, like, what am I supposed to do with that one? So I did what I never do.
You engaged?
I engaged tiny bit. I never get angry. So I said, well, of course we're white feminists. What do you mean by that? And he went like, well, if you have to ask,
Was it a he?
My point is.
That sounds more like a
And I said,
girl.
well, I said, so what? So I'm just trying to understand. You know what we think by our gender and our race. I thought that was called racism and sexism by any other name. And then they got into this whole thing. But as I just kept just pushing a little, like, what do you mean? What do you mean playing the dumb blonde, as he might also say? He finally got very defensive. And he said, well, it's just that you guys, I think he tried to say we just were privileged or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, oh, you mean it like dad dancing, that white feminism is like dad dancing, that we're just pathetic. We don't know what,
Clueless, out of it.
So I thought that was interesting. And then suddenly after this, there's this rash of stories where, I don't want to get into white supremacy here, but never follow that with but. But there's this rapper, there was this concert that was charging extra for
white people.
Yeah, what was
and this
that about?
wonderful young woman, a rapper,
where was
Tiny
this?
Jag.
It was in Detroit, yeah.
In Detroit. And they were going to have, the tickets ranged from $10 to $40. And they were going to have a discount for attendees who were people of color, and anybody white had to pay full price. And this young woman protested and pulled out of the festival when she was, and then of course she was attacked on Twitter, and said that she had internalized racism and so forth.
Right.
But I was happy to see that she was defended by somebody I like a lot on Twitter, who is Zuby. Who is, he's like a very smart guy. He's like an Oxford graduate,
a
rap
white?
singer or
Is he a white
something.
man?
No, I think he's a person of color. But he said, well done, intersectional radicals. You've become the very racist you claim to stand against.
Right,
and
well,
that's
where
the
we're
thing.
kind of going, right?
You don't fight racism and sexism by being racist and sexist. It just doesn't work. And what is the end game? This is what I want to know. What is the end game? You're only going to infuriate people, and you're not solving problems. There are problems that certainly are intensified by race and class and gender. And so figure out what those problems are and address them. If it's education, if it's dysfunctional families.
I just have this rule that whenever somebody says, you shouldn't be saying that because you're X, and they say because you're white, I always take out the word white and I insert Jewish, Black, Muslim. Any sentence that radically changes its meaning when you do that is like, this is not the world. This is not the liberal world we want to live in. You want to bring everybody up. You don't want to start pushing certain groups down.
It makes no sense, and just the idea that you can characterize, let's say, for example, all the people that would attend this concert, and assume that the white people are privileged and need to pay more, and the black people are the underdogs. This seems to me to be insulting everyone.
Well, my dear, it's not the opera. It's a rap concert.
Yeah, I did a little poking into what has happened since then, because this all happened a little while ago, and since then, the ticket website that was hosting the ticket sales, I think it was either Ticketmaster or Eventbrite, it was one of the two, they actually said, "Oh no, you guys cannot do this. We have a clause in the legal, contract of our website that you cannot refuse or charge more because of someone. I think they referred to it as a factor they cannot control. Mm-hmm. So because the concert took place in inner city Detroit, in this primarily black neighborhood, that's what they were trying to do. So now they've offered an option where all the tickets are the same price, but they encourage non-POC,
People of color.
non-people of color to donate to a particular charity that benefits people of color in the city of Detroit. So you are given the option after you buy the ticket.
Well, that's an improvement, but why can't everyone donate?
Right.
So again, it just the marker of making race so salient it's just, and I think would be embarrassing to people who, most people are not, on Twitter or not taking intersectional philosophy, and I just don't think this would go over well. Now, what I heard is that they stopped doing it because they say they've been receiving death threats, the organizers of the concert.
They said from white nationalists.
Yeah, neo-Nazis.
Right, but on the other hand, which
is also possibly true.
Possibly.
Oh,
definitely true, except that I think we have to have online threats on Twitter and so forth. And so Tiny Jack, the young woman who pulled out of the concert, she's, been receiving abuse and threats. But that's just a given, and I think we should get past that and get past this divisive philosophy that's not
and it leads
taking us anywhere.
There was another article in the New York Times about covering the Whitney biennial,
right?
Which this is sort of like more high culture, I guess, or is that a privileged thing to say? But many black artists in it doing great things, a lot of women, and then there was this backlash that there were white male critics who were commenting on the installations that were at the biennial, and somebody said, a non-white art critic said, "It's 2019 and we're in the middle of a renaissance in black artistic production, and you are telling me the best people to evaluate that are the same ones who basically ignored black artists for decades." These are just, like the New Yorker critic happens to be a white male. And this leads into the territory, which is well worn in this podcast, of it means you'll kill artistic creativity and tradition if you say that, like as with novels, you can only write about a character that is yourself. You're not allowed to imagine anything. You can't appreciate anything that is not yourself.
Well, there's just all of this policing of the imagination. And now, because of this aggressive politics, all right, fine, you have an exhibit in the Whitney, and this is what is distressing to me, is that you have this biennial at the Whitney, and they feature not only artists of color, but mostly women artists of color. Mm-hmm. So that's happened. Then all the critics aren't enthusiastic. There is some pushback against some of the art, not because of who the artists are, but because of the quality of the art. For example, Deborah Solomon, an art critic, said that...
she's a white feminist.
She's a white feminist. She said that the phrase kept coming up in the exhibit of white supremacy, and she said, well, it's a tired academic slogan. And she said that in reference to a work of art in the exhibit. And then the artist pushed back, and then she was thought to be disqualified because she said this. But it is a tired academic slogan. Mm-hmm. And I would be so put off by an exhibit. It would be driving home this rhetoric that's already going out of style and annoying and divisive. And what is it doing there in the art? Mm-hmm. You would think artists would be a little ahead of what happened in Gender Studies 101 in 87.
No, but it's also such, and this is where it's tired. I remember, who was it? The artist Serrano, who did the famous Piss Christ.
Yes,
the crucifix floating in urine, and it was in one of these, probably the Whitney Biennial, and Jesse Helms and everybody predictably went nuts. I remember I had this very intellectual Polish friend of mine who was watching this unfold, and he said, yes. The artist is doing what the artist is doing, and Jesse Helms is doing what Jesse Helms is doing, and they were perfectly symbiotic because Serrano wanted everybody to get angry at the piss Christ,
Right.
you know, and the Jesse Helms of the war, era just reacted in completely predictable ways. And it's the same thing with using Nazis or white supremacy. You'll get the predictable. You're trying to get a certain response, and you get it. And this is where the left and right can enhance each other. I mean, they're just playing off each other, and. Come up with something more creative than.
And the thing
Nazis.
is, the white critics, they weren't even critical. They just didn't say exactly what
Right.
these artists wanted them to say, and so they reject them. And now they want a third level.
Well, everything is great. All of this is so brilliant.
All of it's
and
brilliant,
original.
and they want the critics, so they want to be able to be the artist, to have the art exhibit, and then to control the criticism. Well, that's like art under a dictatorship or something. I mean, it's not. That's not how creativity flourishes. It's all being carefully policed and monitored, and
Well, also, art throughout history. I mean, it's also to say there are no standards. And I think it was, Frederick Douglass who argued that you shouldn't be judging literature or the content of it by the color of who wrote it, that was the great liberation, was to come into, what did Hemingway say, when you start writing novels, you're entering the ring with the greats. You're there with Muhammad Ali. You're being judged by the people who you admire.
right, and you're
The best of
emulating
the
them.
best. If you start painting, you're stepping into the ring with Picasso. Like whatever. But
Well, if you're in the Whitney and you're aspiring to be, a great artist, then you have to accept that there's going to be criticism, and they aren't accepting it. And they're using these, calling out people on the basis of race. And this is the fallacy at the heart of this movement, is that you can't judge a work of art or a piece of criticism by the person behind it. You have to judge it by its qualities, its intrinsic merits. And they want to break the rules, and that's like, that's what happens to art in authoritarian governments, where they determine what art is, and they hire the critics.
right, and does it have the correct themes? And then we're back to Soviet
realism.
unrealism. Yes, we want the strong, or Nazi art. The Vichyite blonde family is the extreme white version of that. Did I just bring it back? I brought it back to Nazis, didn't I?
Yep.
Vichytes.
I'll just be glad when we
need a vacation.
We need a vacation.
Where do we need a vacation?
But you would say that because you're a white feminist.
I remember I'm sorry, I'm going back to the Twitter feud. His final damning comment to me
Oh my God.
about my idiocy was, he said, because I kept saying, "What do you mean by white feminist? What does that mean?" And he said, "You have a lackluster views." And then so I went full dumb blonde.
No,
I
I
said,
I
if we
resent
used
that.
conditioner, would we be more would our views be more lustrous?
We have lustrous highlights. If he goes after our highlights,
Yeah.
he's going after our souls.
Yeah, he is.
I think
All right,
Ella's
the fact-
going to have to dye her hair blonde.
I know.
Yeah, Ella, you got to
only
be part of
brunette.
the intellect.
Intellectual blonde web.
All right, before we get to listener reaction and sign off for a few weeks. Okay, this is just the last thing. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up. Mothers are drinking more than ever, but the sober curious movement challenges wine mom culture. This was from the Washington Post.
Wine mom culture.
Yeah, when you would have toddlers and you would
You
go to
needed a glass of wine.
oh my God, mommy's little friend.
Yeah.
You used to go, and the only way you could mitigate being relentlessly, 18 hours a day in the company of a 2-year-old was if on a play date, while the kids were finally interacting, when they weren't killing each other, you could sit with the other moms and you could have a civilized glass of wine and feel for just 5 minutes that you were
And just
older
decompress.
than 2. And now, apparently, this this sober curious movement, which is getting its little tendrils into everything, has gotten into the wine mom culture, and women are now being discouraged. Look, they're discouraging women, it says, from bringing thermoses of quote unquote mommy juice to soccer field sidelines. What?
Come on.
Gets you through. Thank God none of my children played soccer.
Oh, God.
I know I can't say that now, especially with women's champions. So soccer practice every Saturday morning.
Could you ever? I know there are sports girls. I know them.
Yeah.
I worship them. But
No, I totally
could
respect
you
them.
ever have played soccer in high school?
No.
I
But
mean,
I wasn't talented. No, look, if you are a talented athlete.
right. I
I'm all
wasn't
for it.
talented.
But none
we
of
had
these kids
tests.
were.
I had to throw. It was that JFK had initiated physical strength and tests, and I was in 6th grade, and we took these tests. And first of all, I thought they were appalling because we had to go.
Oh yeah, you had the presidential medal. We had the Commonwealth.
And I had to
test or
throw this
something. Right,
ball,
you had to
and
do
I could.
certain
I threw it
tasks.
so pathetically.
Was it a shot put?
Threw it like a girl.
No, I threw like a girl, but I was embarrassed. But then I thought, why are they making me do this? It was oppressive, and the gym teachers,
Yeah.
they were.
Okay, but this is the culture that we know that was totally new to me when we moved to Washington, D.C., and then there's this whole culture where if you don't have your kids, I think it's an American thing, if you don't have your kids enrolled in some sort of teen sport by the time they're 2, you are failing them. One mother actually told me this, and my kids weren't interested. None of my kids, they're all individualists, so they hate team sports, except my son who loves watching them, and he did play baseball, but he was the only one. The girls wanted nothing to do with it. In school sports, they took like yoga. It was just like they didn't want to do lacrosse. None of it. I was happy. It meant I didn't have to get up at 7 a.m. and drive to these ridiculous
Thank God.
practices.
And David, my
None
son
of
didn't
them
go.
were
He
going to be
thought he
soccer.
might want to be on a little league team, and then he was set, 9 or 10, and then he thought he'd be a lawyer for baseball players.
See?
Nat decided he wanted
That's
to be
what
a
you do.
sports agent.
That's what
But it was also one of those things, like I was one of these parents who said, look, if you're really interested in this and committed, I will give up my Saturday and Sunday morning.
But I pray you're not. I pray you're
I
not.
pray, quietly pray. But I said, if you want to do it, but you have to be passionate. But I'm not inflicting this interest on you, and I'm not going to push you to do something that you don't want to, that you just not gravitate. And so as a result, that I used to joke that I had the least accomplished children in all of Washington, D.C., because none of them played an instrument. Nat did very well at Little League, but the rest of them, they're interesting, creative people. And I remember once reading something by Yo-Yo Ma, the great
Cellist.
Sorry. Cello?
I play cello, so I'm offended that you couldn't find the word.
I just stammered.
So privileged.
Anyway, he once was asked, because this was a sort of the height, I don't know if they still do it, the Suzuki method, which is the same thing. Where you take
That involves a mother.
a 2-year-old and a mother, or father, standing over them. Can we raise the Nazi analogy? You shall play, And so he was once asked, Yo-Yo Ma, the difference between students who had come through this Suzuki method. Did it in fact work? Were they much more accomplished by the time he started picking them up at 12, 13? And he said, yes, he said that the Suzuki students do demonstrate more technical skill. But the ones who do not go through it are more passionate. Meaning they had come to it on their own, out of their own interests. And that's, I think you try and open up opportunities to kids, like you don't try thwart them. And but this idea that you are telling the children, you have to play piano, you have to play soccer, you have to do this. Actually,
We have to get the Tiger Mom on here to set you right.
Yeah, no, she, that would be an interesting discussion because And
it worked with her girls. They seem pretty accomplished.
Don't listen. I'm giving that bad advice. But anyway, I enjoy my children. They don't speak 6 languages, nor are playing for Women's World Soccer, but I find them interesting.
They're pretty cool.
They're pretty cool. They're cool.
Ambitious.
They're
and
cool.
They're talented in their own.
They're darling. And I would find it so exhausting to be a kid today because that's one thing. I don't agree that with some of these generalizations about the millennials and their hopeless love lives.
You're just sucking up to the millennials. Can I just
No,
say that?
I don't. I just don't believe it. I don't.
That's younger generation.
But what I do see is this pressure on kids, starting in kindergarten, and then by the time they get in the 11th grade, all of those that were ambitious, all of the AP courses and the prep courses and the homework, and then they have to have the soccer and the languages and so forth. And I'm just so glad we didn't have any of that.
Lacrosse. What's with that? Whoever plays lacrosse?
What is it? What even?
lacrosse.
We both played lacrosse.
What is it
But
fun?
It's not like there's a
No,
World
I hated it.
Lacrosse
Can't you get hurt?
Federation, right?
I wish.
There's a U.S. lacrosse.
Yeah, but
Federation.
nobody watches it. It's less popular than women's soccer. Can I say that?
No, you cannot, and you've internalized your own oppression.
It's like, does anybody go to lacrosse
In New
tournaments
England, they do.
after the age of 21?
Yeah.
Big deal. It's like
Really?
Yeah,
school football.
Jane's husband played lacrosse for UVA, and
Jane works at a college.
Yes. Yes, and her husband actually started a foundation for underprivileged kids in the Bronx and teaches them how to play lacrosse, and now many of them are going to college on lacrosse scholarships.
Well, that's the point of it, right? Isn't
Right.
it just to get a scholarship
Yeah.
or to get into a college? It's not about beyond the age of 21 that anybody actually...
I love it. I thought it was really fun. I played lacrosse and field hockey, and I loved it.
I hated it. I wanted it to be men's lacrosse where you could actually hit.
Oh
people,
yeah, that's true.
And you had a helmet. That's what I wanted. I wanted to hurt
So
people.
you felt you were playing sissy lacrosse.
Well, it's more. It requires more skill in terms of being
Yeah.
able to catch the ball and like.
Because you don't get to wear pads when you're...
Yeah.
Have we
So I
digressed
just
into Barstool Sports again?
No, I just want to say one thing that just shows a generational shift.
Yeah.
When I was in 11th grade, maybe 12th grade, at University High School in Los Angeles, the big classes in the LA county school system, and this was in West Los Angeles, and I went to gym class, and the teacher was there marking your name, like going in the pool or going out to play volleyball or play. And I would go in, and then it was a big crowd, and then I'd sort of sneak back. She'd check my name. I'd go into the locker room, put my clothes back on, go out to the parking lot and have a cigarette.
That's exactly what my eldest daughter did.
And meet my friends. And then, we just... Now, I know that's not healthy, but it was just...
Certainly the cigarette part. But
Well-
okay, but bottom line, I would just say, if they're now taking wine away from
You can take away the cigarettes, not the wine.
to be part of this culture. Yeah, it's tough to be a kid. It also seems it's becoming increasingly hard to be a mom. All right, we should really now go to our who's doing it. Oh, we have a competition between you guys. Divided listener reaction or Zoe's.
I've got it on my phone.
Okay, Zoe, this is your
split it up.
last listener reaction. It's
Yeah, I'm going to be very sad when we finish these up. But there's some good ones that you sent me. Now, this first one, I don't have the name of the listener that we got it from, but it made us all laugh nonetheless. So, hey, Femsplainers. I seem to have missed the episode where you were talking about vocal fry, but heard you bring it up at the end of the most recent one.
God, we become vocal. How did we become the vocal?
You know what? We should be the vocal fry podcast, and we'll just.
Just
you
form
should
an
make merch.
organization against vocal fry.
I'm going to take a stand.
AVF.
To hell with vocal
Merch.
fry.
I think we should make merch that says like vocal fries, and then it's got like a...
It's so annoying.
Okay.
Anyways.
We'll try get off this topic. But yes,
This is the list.
So he or she said, I thought you'd be interested to know that vocal fry screaming is used a lot in metal and hardcore music, and when done correctly will not damage the voice at all. And they sent us a link to the screams.
Okay.
Oh, I might like it. I like.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I like heavy metal.
Oh, so does
Really?
my boyfriend plays heavy metal guitar. He's very, very...
He's amazing. He's very impressive.
Christina,
I like him
you
too.
I'm sorry.
Have you heard baby metal?
Hold on, an ad is
It's like
playing.
a dental dam.
No. I can't believe you don't know baby metal. It's these little Japanese girls, and they play heavy metal. And we're going to go see them when they come to
I've got it
Washington.
ready.
Heavy metal.
You'll like them.
Okay.
Baby metal.
I just think of you're a 14-year-old boy listening to heavy metal.
Well, you just have to. It's just you just can relax.
You know what? You have an inner 14-year-old boy. I think that's you.
I thought I had an inner gay male.
Oh, there's that too.
Yeah, I got
14-year-old gay male.
Let's just go roll with the stereotypes. Heavy metal, I don't associate.
No.
I like going to sing Broadway tunes with gay men.
I like that. Yeah.
All right.
So this is a 6-minute long vocal lesson on how to do this vocal fry scream.
Ooh.
I'm going to try and find. All right, here we go. I think he's about to scream.
I just want to hear the scream. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Push the air out and really flex those abs. Once you get more comfortable with this sensation, you should be able to do it all at once. Kind of like,
That's where they start smashing the guitar.
Yeah. Burning the guitar, smashing the guitars.
Okay. All right. So not working on that, Christina. You can work on that in your spare time. What's next?
So I was so delighted to see this listener reaction because this is actually somebody that I know.
Oh.
From the Acton Institute. I believe it's Caroline Roberts, not Carolyn. But I've collaborated with her with some of my other scholars at AEI. So to hear her reach out to us was super exciting. So she says, "Hi, Christina and Danielle. I just want to thank you so much for a fabulous podcast. I always feel like I'm hanging out with friends when I tune in, and I really love your casual, witty, and always spot-on commentary. I produce a podcast for a conservative think tank and have a small handful of podcasters I look up to. You are both definitely in this exclusive club. From listening to your podcast, I've learned a lot from you as well as your guests, and to top it off, have picked up some valuable interview techniques along the way."
Key, pour wine.
Wine and marijuana.
They'll admit to everything.
Thanks so much for making me feel welcome in each and every episode I listen to. Will either of you be, by chance, attending the Podcast Movement Conference in Orlando in August? If so, I would love to connect.
We weren't invited.
We'll be working on our vocal fry scream.
We're going to have that perfected for the fall semester.
Okay. That's so sweet, Carolyn.
Yes.
No, we won't be going there because also, you know what? We're going to be off on vacation.
Vacay.
So, that's very sweet. We're honored. And yeah, in terms of interviewing techniques, Christina, any pointers aside from getting people drunk?
Get them drunk and just, I have no technique. You have techniques. My technique is I just come, I just ask them whatever comes into my mind.
We do plan the show. We do plan our interviews always before, and we research them. But then. All
right, take that out. Take that out.
No. It's fair. No. Actually, but once it starts, you can't always control a conversation. That was especially true last week when we had the two Zhongs and young Bet on. And I was listening to it. People complained we talked over each other, which we did. But that was just one of those, you know what? Just let it roll.
Right. Baby
Don't
Metal
hurt the cats.
is coming to D.C. September 8th.
I'm not going there with you. Forget it. All right, Zoe, go on. Get her off this topic because I don't want to go to Baby Metal.
Great. So this comes from a listener named James.
Oh. Okay, Christina.
What is this?
Get up to the...
Did you have to look at them? Oh, they grew up.
It's giving me...
They grew up.
They're not babies
sounds like the
anymore.
I want the babies. I want them. Oh, they're so grown up. They were little girls.
Forget it. Okay, are there any more, Zoe? And because Christina is hovering over her iPad. Oh, stop.
Look.
Oh. That is the most absurd...
It's Baby Metal. Check it out. This has 10 million views. There's a reason. Okay.
I'm clutching my...
Oh, God.
Well, if anyone can scream, it's going to be...
It's babies.
It's going to be small little girls.
They don't need vocal fry.
It's toddler metal now.
All right. Go.
So our last one actually comes from a special listener whose name
What do you
is...
mean by special?
He's a big fan. His name is Vernon.
I didn't know where we were going with that.
His name is Vernon.
Vernon. We love Vernon.
And Vernon is, I think, he's our premier...
No, sorry. Christina is like, what are you doing? Now you're making noises with your...
Nicorette.
Don't put Nicorette in, you mumble.
Okay.
You have to wait.
Okay.
We're almost finished.
I'm not a smoker. Haven't been since 1972.
Gym class. Okay.
So Vernon is special because I think he is and correct me if I'm wrong, our premier last call donator where he actually gets his own segment.
Yes, okay. Quick ad. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chloe. So if you donate to us at Patreon or We Gather, that depending on what level
Your level of commitment.
you can, there's one that you can actually just phone in and we will answer your questions. And Vernon has been the first. He bought us around. He paid actually $100. And so he could call in and talk to us, in this month's last call special episode for just our supporters, we had a little chat with him, and it was lovely.
Super cool.
He was,
So he also wrote into us, and he said, "Hello, Femsplainers. The Transanity episode
with Andrew Sullivan.
Yes, was quite enjoyable, as I've mentioned on Twitter as well, but there's only so much I could say in one tweet.
Thank you, Vernon.
I think Andrew had very good points and seemed to be able to talk very well with both Christina and Danielle. I tended to agree statements regarding how making sex is the same or not matter to run in contrast with what the gay movement has been hoping for. I also agree with his point about how nobody is LGBTQ+, but are their own respective orientations instead. I am reminded of some college days hypocrisy I've encountered with an LGBT group called Spectrum, about which I quipped something along the lines of, shouldn't straight be part of the spectrum together with the rest? To which a Spectrum member flat out said no. It made me wonder at the time whether the purpose of the LGBTQ+ umbrella label was merely to divide the line between straight folk, such as myself, and every other orientation not straight, instead of any meaningful definition of coexistence.
There was a little accident.
Vernon, we were listening. The gasp of Christina was, I just poured her wine into her water glass. Sorry.
Oh, no.
It's diluted.
It's a catastrophe.
I'm almost done.
Okay, sorry, Vernon. Go on.
Early on in the show, the subject was about realistic-looking models. I think it was Danielle that may have said it, but she compared them to Soviet realist paintings.
That seems to be a theme in my...
I guess so.
I've got to come up with
I think that was me.
That aren't Nazis or Soviet realists. Okay,
and he said, I think the analogy was spot on. I think there's something strange about the mentality behind the promotion of the daily mundane in the name of realism, as opposed to promoting what might be considered exceptional, as if there may be no ideal to aspire to. Not sure if everyone would agree on this, but that's my thought anyway. Thank you again for keeping the show going, from Vernon. Well, thank you, Vernon, for keeping our show going.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for bringing up that Soviet... Do you remember this was an ad for Wendy's in 1985 or something? And there was like these KGB, and now we will have a beauty, fashion show. And these women came out in like a gray prison suit and their hair in a kerchief, and that was day wear. And now we will have evening wear. And she comes out in a gray, same dress, kerchief, with a flashlight, like a spy. And they said, it's not good not to have choices. It was for Wendy's, but it's totally amusing. And the models look like Khrushchev.
Yeah, I'm standing by my liking aspirational, even though it causes body dysmorphia and such. I like looking at
pretty people.
Yeah.
Would you see that Miley Cyrus just put out a music video that's exactly on this theme, where I think it's called like Mother and Daughter or something like that, but she has all women of different shapes and sizes and body types, and her outfit in it, because she's very thin, very tall, her outfit is a nylon vinyl jumpsuit that has teeth where the vagina should be.
Oh my God, Zoe, you and bringing up
vaginas.
Ella, you don't have this obsession, do you?
No,
Can we go back to?
I hope it's not contagious.
Rudery. No, I'm not. I don't want to be like weird. I don't want to say, gee. I saw my first enlarged mannequin at a Nordstrom's over the week.
Not enlarged.
And what is an enlarged?
Responsibly proportioned.
Full bodied.
Differently shaped.
In the bathing suit, and that was good. But it's interesting, I guess, as Americans heavier,
expand,
like liberty.
it's going to be. We're going to enter? Was it the 18th century, Christina? Where the fat bountiful woman was the ideal.
The
body type?
Rubens
The Rubens?
model and the
Yeah. The Rubenesque.
yes.
So we're sort of, maybe that's just where we're going, and I don't like the deathly thin underage looking models, but I do like, sort of I like beauty, and
I liked Twiggy. Jean Shrimpton, do you remember her?
yeah, but I agree. Look, it can be too.
Lauren Hutton. Now I saw her the other day. She's 80 or something.
Yeah, she looks incredible.
She looks pretty good.
Yeah. But anyway, I realize I'm probably, can I make this analogy again? I'm probably being a bit of a Nazi about that. Wanting those
That's a wrap on season 4.
perfect Vichyite families modeling the swimsuits. Yeah, okay, guys, that's a wrap. We're heading away. What are you doing this summer, Christina, aside from cleaning out your house? Oh, stop. No.
Baby
no.
metal. That's what she's
Baby
doing.
metal, baby metal. I am going to go on a cruise.
What?
Yes.
Without me?
Well, you were invited, but then you were blacklisted for being a white feminist.
You're going on a black feminist cruise?
No.
Going on the furry cruise.
You're going on a furry cruise?
Zoe, you
I've outed
told
you.
her.
Zoe, we're getting this podcast out of the gutter.
No, you made some furry-phobic remarks, and you've been disinvited.
Okay, fine, good. Enjoy yourself with those mascots. What are
Well-
you going to be? Who do you identify with?
I always
A
go
Boston
the same. No,
mascot.
I like. My favorite is Tigger from Winnie the Pooh.
He's
So you're a
bouncy.
tiger.
He's kind of bouncy.
Yep, bouncy.
Don't let Tigger lose his bounce. I'm just going to Canada. I'm going to go to our cottage and be happy and restful by the lake. And yeah, we're going to miss Zoe, but Zoe will stay in touch.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And Ella, we welcome you. And
Thank you.
Don't, just because we're breaking doesn't mean we don't need your support, because if we're going to come back in the fall and not ghost you, we really need your continuing support.
We would never ghost our fans.
No, but we may have
Never
to,
ghost our
because-
listeners. Just we have to just get through the next month or so.
We gotta make this viable, people. So Patreon, we gather /femsplainers / learn that. That would be great.
greatly appreciate the support, and it makes it possible for us to continue offering this random selection of
This smattering of
A lot of vagina content. If you
And-
want to keep
and
that you could
alcohol
sponsor-
infused.
You could sponsor our. We should
No,
set up a
we're not going to
vagina
do that. No,
content.
where you get dental dams as a gift.
let's buy our dental dams. Let's raise
You
the
know, like
funds.
this PBS where you could get, or the NPR radio where you get like socks or a
Tote bags.
tote bag. Okay, never mind. Have a great summer, everybody, and thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us, and yeah, you could still hang with us if you support us. You'll still get a July, August
Bonus
episode.
episode.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the Femsplainers. Stay with us by following us on Twitter and Facebook at Femsplainers and on Instagram at Femsplainers Podcast. You can always email questions and comments to contact@femsplainers.com. We read every one.
We are recorded at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C., and thanks to AEI Research Assistant Zoe Appler, who is our production assistant here in the studio, and thanks to Nat Frum, our audio and video editor, and occasional millennial mansplainer.
And listen to us on pretty much any of your favorite podcast platforms. And please remember to subscribe and like us at iTunes if possible. Every like helps us keep our solid 5-star rating. Cheers.